Welcome back to Studio 4, everybody. Skylar Gallup in to talk about the latest guest on Hey Amarillo. And I owe this family a debt of gratitude because I spent so many hours in Hastings growing up. I absolutely loved it. You got a chance to sit down with the John Marmaduke.
Yeah, he's such a cool guy because, you know, he was the president and CEO of Hastings, but also because of a lot of other stuff that he does. And I was excited, you know, John's told his story because it's a very, very interesting one. He inherited 4 stores from his dad, 3 of which were failing, all in a bid for his dad to get his son to move back to Amarillo, and then grew it to Hastings Entertainment. And so that in itself is such a cool story. But what I really enjoyed about this interview is we also talked about like what he did after he got out of Hastings.
Well, that's what I'm curious to know.
Now and,
because everybody knew the Marmaduke family because of what they were able to do with Hastings, right? And for those of us who grew up here in Amarillo in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, the amount of time of going in there and picking out first off cassettes and CDs, and then records came back around. But I mean, date night, you had to go rent a VHS from Hastings, and I absolutely loved it. But I don't know what he did after the sale.
Well, he put his really good business sense to work for some really cool stuff. He has business ventures that he does, but he also is deeply involved in an organization called Senecor, which is alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers, kind of all across the South, centered in Houston, and he got involved with it and used his good sense to make it very, very successful, very profitable, and really impactful for the people. So we talk a bit about that. And I think that when I reflect on this episode, it is part a lovely nostalgic return. You know, we didn't have a Hastings in my town because it was too small.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, driving to Hobbs with Dad to go buy a new CD. And so I think we all have that shared. And then the other part is like some really good business advice.
Really?
Yeah. And it's so funny. I think you'll understand this. A lot of times when you interview people that have tremendous success or done something very, very well or fully, it's like you want to figure out what the secret is. Like, okay, but what is the secret to good business? Like, what is, you know? And it's with John, it's like just common sense, and you know, look at your P&Ls, and so I appreciate that as well. I think it's very interesting as well as nostalgic.
Was it hard for him to make that decision to get out of that business? Did he talk about that?
He did. I think the writing was on the wall.
Well, yeah, we knew it was going in that direction, and at the same time, you just wanted to hold on to it just a little while longer. But I guess.
I think he said the first 20 years was bliss or something. The next 10 were difficult, and the last 5 were
get out,
really crappy.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think that makes good sense. You know, when it's great, it's great, and when it sucks, it's not so fun.
So when you were trying to tap into the wisdom of the business acumen of Mr. Marmaduke, did you take anything out where you're like, I'm keeping that nugget, that I'm writing that down and I'm putting that into action?
I think one of the interesting things about when I was trying to pull out like his cool stories, you know, of which he has many, but you know, he was like in the rise of like the music industry and is kind of like solely responsible for like breaking out Brooks and Dunn and just some really cool stuff, who like came to his dad's funeral, you know, or George Strait, I think, did. He went to Neverland Ranch. Right?
What?
I know.
Hold on.
And so I was like, I wanted like to figure out if he like went to the big parties or like the big clubs, you know, because people wanted Hastings to carry their CDs. You know, there was a very different time in music, you know, in the industry. And he was like, you know, no, we didn't do all that. We were running a business.